It's 1 foot forward, 2 steps back for this Atlanta Braves team all year with another ugly loss. And as the trade deadline approaches, this team needs help. Will Alex Anthopoulos be able to get it for them? We'll discuss all that on today's episode of Locked On Braves. So let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I am your host, Jake Mastriani. You can follow me on social media at ShortstopBall. Check out the podcast there at LockedOn_Braves. Follow the podcast or subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, and also hit that thumbs up button so others can find us here at Locked On Braves. Leave me a comment as well, especially if you're an everyday, or let me know. Appreciate hearing that from you. If you're listening on the audio version, you can do me a favor, leave me a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify, as it does help the show out a ton whenever you do that. And thank you again so much for your support, making Locked On Braves your first listen of each and every day. Today's podcast will get into Monday's ugly loss to the Milwaukee Brewers. Grant Holmes, great outing, some more home runs for the Braves, but nobody on when it happens. So we'll discuss all that, some sloppy play defensively in this one as well. So we'll break down everything happening there, and then we'll spend a lot of our time talking about the trade deadline. A lot of moves happening, none for the Atlanta Braves, but we'll discuss everything that's been going down and what's left for the Atlanta Braves to get. Before we do, though, this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB. Use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Well, let's get into Monday's game, an 8-3 loss to the Milwaukee Brewers. And for half of this game, the first half of this game, things were looking really good for the Atlanta Braves. So like maybe they were going to continue the play that they had finishing out the weekend in New York, up 2-1 after 5 innings. Wish you would have got a little bit more, obviously, early on offensively, but Grant Holmes gave you more than you could have hoped for in this one. Made just a couple of mistakes, a hanging slider to Chourio that went for a hit, and then a hanging slider to Rhys Hoskins that went out of the yard. But outside of that, Grant Holmes was fantastic in this outing. He got the first 7 outs were recorded via the strikeout. He finished with 8 on the day, allowed just 3 hits over 5 innings. One of them, a weak little infield hit. And then I mentioned the 2 hanging sliders that he gave up to Chourio and Hoskins that both went for hits. But 5 innings, 3 hits, no walks, 1 earned run, 8 strikeouts through 70 pitches, which was probably going to be his limit. And he was able to get through 5 innings with that and through 53 strikes. So just really pounded the zone, was able to get ahead of hitters. Again, just a fantastic job from Grant Holmes in this one. He threw the 4-seam, curveball, and slider the most, also mixed in a cutter a little bit, had 11 whiffs on 35 swings. That's a 31% whiff rate. Also had 16 called strikes for a CSW percentage of 39%. If you listen to me, and I use that number a lot, I'm always looking for anything over 30 is good. Anything close to 40 is just great. And he gets 39% CSW percentage, which, again, just really, really good. And that slider, for the most part, I thought was really effective for him when he was able to locate it, through some good curveballs as well to some left-handed hitters. I thought it was a great game by Sean Murphy behind the plate, really helping Holmes navigate through that. I thought he called a really good game for Grant Holmes. But unfortunately, after he left, things got pretty rough. But sticking on Grant Holmes for just a minute here, I was hoping to get 3 innings out of him. He gives you 5, which is huge for this team. And he left with the lead. And then the bullpen situation happened, which, not like the Braves bullpen. And look, you call on Jesse Chavez in the 6th inning after Grant Holmes leaves. And Chavez has been great. And as great as he's been, he's still not somebody that I consider to be a high leverage guy. I know you had to, or you didn't have to, but you used Minter, you used Pierce Johnson in Sunday's game, but you had Joe Jimenez, you had Raisel Iglesias ready, but it was how are you going to get the ball to those guys, knowing that tomorrow is probably going to be another bullpen game. It's not an easy call for Brian Snitker in a 1-run game in the 6th inning. Clearly, Jesse Chavez just didn't have it in this one, the big blow being a 3-run home run that he allowed to Willy Adames on a pitch that I didn't think was terrible. Saw many people saying it was, middle. It was not. It was middle in, but it's too good of a pitch in an 0-2 count. That needs to be in off the plate. It's, I gave Murphy credit for calling a good game with Grant Holmes, but I would have rather seen him throw something that was running in towards Adames in that situation instead of a cutter that's going to be running towards the plate. You tried to kind of front door the cutter on him inside, and he located it well. But again, that ball's running back into the bat of Willy Adames, who puts a great swing on it, absolutely crushes it for a 3-run home run. So I'd like to see him throw a sinker, something cutting in on Adames there and off the plate. But either way, just didn't execute. His runners on the corners anyway. It was most likely going to give up the tying run at least, but gives up the 3-run homer, and then things just fall apart from there. As the Braves bullpen gives up 7 runs after Grant Holmes leaves the game. So again, rare meltdown by this Braves bullpen, but after that big blow from Willy Adames, you knew it was going to be hard for this Braves team to get back in it. As good as the offense was in those last couple of games and the home run ball being back into play, you knew that was going to be tough against a good Brewers bullpen. Last thing on Grant Holmes, though, he's a guy they were starting to stretch out as a starter before they called him up to Atlanta. He got 3 starts in Gwinnett before they called him up, and he went 5 and 4 2/3 innings. So this is a guy that's capable of giving you, a starter's workload, or at least, able to give you 4 or 5 innings. We'll see what happens, obviously, with the rotation. We'll talk about Ronaldo Lopez later, which we got some good news on him. But we'll see if Grant Holmes gets another trip, through the rotation now after this performance. And again, he got stretched out at Gwinnett to be able to do this. The options, Alan Winans obviously isn't the guy. Darius Vines, who he got roughed up in the final inning of this game as well. Don't really want to put too much stock into that. It was 1 inning and a garbage outing. Bryce Elder, who we'll see on Tuesday, hasn't been great here lately. Maybe Grant Holmes gets another look in the rotation while the Braves are down a couple of guys right now. Getting to the offensive side of things, look, I'm tired of all the strikeouts from the Atlanta Braves that they keep racking up. It's very frustrating, especially when you're facing a pitcher, in a Colin Ray. He gets 6 strikeouts in 5 1/3 innings. It's just frustrating. And it felt like they had a lot of called third strikes. Felt like that on both sides. So I don't know if there was something playing in that ballpark tonight. I know they opened the roof in like the 2nd or 3rd inning after both pitchers were on a strikeout frenzy to begin the game. So maybe that's part of it. But when Grant Holmes has 8 strikeouts, Colin Ray has 6 and 5+ innings for Colin Ray. Something maybe is a little bit up there, but either way, Matt Olson, a rough night, over 4 with 3 strikeouts after, last couple of games, seeing him hit some balls hard. You had 2 strikeouts from Austin Riley in this one, who's cooled off since his latest son was born. But, just Jared Kelenic over 4. Just a rough night at the plate for a lot of guys. Adam Duvall over 3 with 2 strikeouts, striking out in a situation that, or he didn't strike out. He was over 3 with 2 strikeouts and grounded into a double play after you had a leadoff walk to begin an inning, which, felt like a chance to get back in the game. So you had the 3 home runs. That's great. It's now 4 games in a row now that you've had 3 or more home runs. That's fantastic. That's what you ultimately want from this offense. But you look at it on the night overall, it's 3 runs on 4 hits. That's not good. That's not good offensively. You did get another home run for Orlando Arcia, who continues to turn things around. He's been very good lately. Also had a walk on the night. Sean Murphy just missed a home run in his first at bat. He did get a home run in the 9th inning there as well. So good to see him put one over the fence. Marcelo Zuna, he hit a ball. Look, I think that ball goes 500 feet. If not, that glass wall doesn't get in its way. That ball was absolutely destroyed, but that's just what he's done all year long. So nothing really new there. But again, outside of that, there just wasn't much in this game and nobody else really doing much of anything. So tough night overall for this offense, just a sloppy game in general. Touched on the defense. You almost had a big mistake by Nacho, who was trying to do too much on a slow roller. You just got to get it out there. He was trying to catch it and spin to get it to second base quickly to turn the double play. When you got to charge the ball like that and you got a pretty good runner, just get the out. So almost a big mistake there. Kelenic misreads a ball that leads to an RBI triple. Like, I don't blame him for that one. Off the bat, just watching it on TV, I said, I hope that doesn't drop in front of him. And then that ball just took off and went to the fence. Good play on a popped-up bunt by Olsen. We'll talk about the good stuff as well. That potentially saved a run. And then some sloppy play late. Laureano, I guess he was throwing the ball to Nacho. I don't really know why you're throwing the ball to Nacho there, but then Arcia just kind of gets out of the way of it, and then it goes into the dugout. The runner gets all the way to third. That was embarrassing. And then Kelnick catches a pop-up in center field. I don't know if he would have thrown the guy out, but, he forgot the runner was there. So just hate seeing that type of stuff. You hate losing. But when this just became an ugly game and then you see the lapses on defense, it just, again, it feels more like that team that just doesn't have it this year for whatever reason. And it's just lapses like that really worry you maybe more than some of the other stuff that you're seeing from this team. So a couple of key moments. Bottom second, infield single, error single with no outs. Holmes strikes out the side to get out of it. Ultimately didn't matter, but that was a big moment for him. And I thought a big moment was top of the third. You got Riley coming up with a runner on second, 2 outs. These are the situations when Riley, Ozuna, Matt Olson come up, in these spots. You really need to see them start coming through with runners on base. I mean, you had 3 home runs tonight, all solo shots. And so those are moments where you have to have your big 3 in the middle of the order coming through with some hits. And Riley just wasn't able to do it. Again, he's cooled off a bit here since coming back from the maternity list, but hopefully he gets going again here pretty soon because they're going to need him. You're going to need Ozuna, going to need Olsen to get going offensively, no matter what you do at the deadline. And so far they've done nothing at the deadline, but we'll talk about all the other deals that are happening right now. We'll get into that here next. Get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trade, SupplyHouse.com. SupplyHouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. You need help with an order? Get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business and talk with a real person every time. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining SupplyHouse.com's free Trade Master program. Every Trade Master gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at SupplyHouse.com/TM and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at SupplyHouse.com. It's the MLB trade deadline. Locked On is going to have you covered, every team. Locked On MLB will be covering the trade deadline from every angle, so make sure you're subscribed to your favorite Locked On channel. Obviously, Locked On Braves here, Locked On MLB as well. And if you want to hear some of the other reactions from other teams out there making moves, because the Braves aren't one of those teams right now, make sure that you check out one of our Locked On channels. All right, coming here on the podcast, obviously tomorrow, if a deal breaks, I will come on. If it's a major deal, I'll come on and do a live episode talking about it. I'm hoping to go live at the trade deadline. That's when the kiddos and wife are coming home. So we'll see if we can make that happen, but I'm hoping to go live as the trade deadline comes to an end, and hopefully we'll have some moves happening at that time, and we'll cover everything there on Tuesday. Let's get into some of the trade deadline news and rumors. Report from John Heyman. Braves are among teams considering White Sox ace Garrett Crochet. Now, I will suppress those rumors, that news a little bit. One that's coming from John Heyman, who's honestly a guy that I just have blocked on social media just because I think he's ridiculous and I don't really believe his reporting. It's hard for me to believe that John Heyman, of all people, has insider information on what is happening with the Braves. Now, he could be getting that from the White Sox. He could be getting that from an agent. Look, he knows more than I do. I don't want to, dismiss everything that he says. But it just feels like a report that say the Braves have checked in on Garrett Crochet, which I do think is legitimate. I would be surprised if Alex hasn't checked up on everybody, and I'm sure they would love to get him. Now, there are also reports that Crochet wouldn't pitch in the postseason for a team that acquired him without a contract extension. It's a young guy who's coming off Tommy John surgery. He's obviously going to throw the most innings he's ever thrown this season. He's trying to look out for his future and his health. We know the Braves are good at giving extensions to these types of guys, but that may be something that you have to keep in consideration when acquiring or potentially acquiring Garrett Crochet. Could the Braves get a deal like this done? Yeah, you could. It's going to cost you guys that are probably going to be part of your rotation going forward, either a Smith-Shawver, a Waldrop, or a Schwellenbach. You're probably going to have to give up one of those three to get the deal done. But I think the Braves have the pieces to make it happen. I don't believe it's going to happen. I would be surprised if the Braves make a deal for Garrett Crochet. Pleasantly surprised. I would love to see that happen, but I just don't think it's a possibility. Because I see the Wild one asking, what would we have to give up for Crochet? I thought it would be expensive. I do think it'll be expensive. It should be expensive. You're talking about a guy who has burst onto the scene as one of the best pitchers, one of the best strikeout pitchers in all of baseball. Now, he is also like Ronaldo Lopez. He's making that transition from a reliever to a starter, and you're going to have to worry about his limits, innings limits this year. Worry about, obviously injuries already a big thing there. He has already had Tommy John surgery, so hopefully that's behind him. But you're going to have to pay a big price. Like I said, you're going to have to give up one of those three pitchers that I mentioned. I just don't think there's any way you can get a deal done without giving up at least one of those. You're probably going to have to give up at least one of Owen Murphy and J.R. Ritchie, and then probably another top 10 prospect in the Braves system. Maybe a Guanipa or somebody like that. Maybe a Nacho Alvarez. I think you're going to have to give up 3 of your top 10 prospects in this system, including 2 of your top 5. In my opinion, that's probably what it's going to take to get somebody like Garrett Crochet. But I think they have the pieces to get it done, but it's going to cost a lot. Now let's get into some of the trades that did happen on Monday. You had a 3-team trade between the Dodgers, Cardinals, and the White Sox. The Dodgers got Tommy Edman from the Cardinals and Michael Kopech from the White Sox. The Cardinals got Eric Fetty, pitcher I thought made a lot of sense for the Atlanta Braves, but the Cardinals get him along with Tommy Pham, somebody that a lot of people thought the Braves should go after in the outfield. White Sox get prospects Miguel Vargas, Alexander Albertus, and Jarrell Perez. The Guardians get Lane Thomas from the Nats for Jose Tena, Alec Clemeny, and Rafael Ramirez Jr. Apologize, I don't know some of these prospects, but Lane Thomas is a guy we talked about last week. It's somebody that the Braves were reported to have interest in, and he goes to the Guardians. Now, I would have liked Lane Thomas. He wasn't necessarily my perfect choice for this team, so I don't worry about that one too much. The Fetty one, is the one that I'm a little bit, I don't want to say upset. It's not the right word, but one that I felt made a lot of sense. I would have loved this deadline if you got Jesse Winker and Eric Fetty. I would have felt really good about this trade deadline. Both of those guys obviously gone now. The Mariners got Justin Turner from the Blue Jays. The Astros get Yusei Kikuchi from the Blue Jays for Jake Bloss, Joey Loperfido, and Will Wagner. So a pretty solid package there for Kikuchi. The Brewers get Frankie Montas from the Reds for Jacob Junis and Joey Wiemer. And the Royals get Michael Lorenzen from the Rangers for reliever Walter Pennington. Again, don't love Michael Lorenzen, but it would be a depth piece, and you basically gave up, a reliever, and not even a high leverage reliever. At that is what the price was for Michael Lorenzen. I feel like that's a pretty fair price. Same thing for the Dodgers, who got Ahmed Rosario for the second trade deadline in a row. They get him from the Rays for Michael Flynn, a 27-year-old relief prospect. So you can't tell me the Braves couldn't have beat that deal. And again, I'm not in love with Ahmed Rosario, but I think that would have been a pretty solid get for the Atlanta Braves to back up shortstop and second base as well with Ozzie out. But the Braves don't make either of those deals happen. So again, I'm not worried. I'm not concerned. There's plenty of time left here for things to happen. And it's a lot of moving pieces for Alex Anthopoulos and what's going on right now and what he's having to navigate. When you consider, 2 weeks ago, and I talked about this on a radio show today, 2 weeks ago, we were sitting here saying, they really need 2 bats. If you can find a starting pitcher for depth, great, but it's not necessary. And then teams are always looking for bullpen. Last week, you're saying with Max Fried injury, you're saying, okay, they still need 2 bats, but now they probably need to go out and get some depth in starting pitching in case, it's worst case scenario for Max Fried. And then this week you get Ronaldo Lopez injury, which again, sounds like best case scenario for him. But I think now you have to be even a little bit more concerned where you still need 2 bats. And now you almost definitely need to go out and get some depth for the starting rotation. And so And now you're also looking with Ozzie Albies out. Nacho's been struggling. And I'm not, this is not nothing against Nacho Alvarez. I have his first Bowman right behind me. I love Nacho Alvarez. He was rushed up, and he seems like he's a little overmatched. He's playing a new position that he hasn't played before. There's a lot going against Nacho Alvarez. You put a lot of pressure on him, putting him in the 2-hole right when you call him up. I love Nacho. I think he's going to be a really good big league player, but he just hasn't gotten off to a great start. So you're potentially needing somebody for second place as well. I don't think that's with Merrifield. So now you're all of a sudden, Alex is sitting here and his shopping list just continues to grow, and we're getting closer and closer to the deadline. Teams know that. They're probably holding Alex Anthopoulos hostage because they know he needs to make these moves, and Alex isn't going to be held hostage. He is not going to balk. We've seen it in free agency with even the best players that the Braves have had. He is not going to go beyond what he thinks is a reasonable deal. But now, he needs help on the infield to replace Ozzie Albies. He needs a couple of bats for the outfield, and he needs depth in the starting rotation. And then again, you would love to have some more help in the bullpen. All that going to happen in the next 15, 20 hours, whatever we're at this point, as I'm recording on Monday night. It's hard to imagine that he's able to get all that done. And it's really a tough place for Anthopoulos to be in, where it gets closer to the deadline. You're probably focusing on one thing. And now all of a sudden, here's this other player that you're going to have to go out and get because now this guy is injured and we have to worry about this. And it's just, I don't envy Anthopoulos in the position that he's in. And again, teams know this. Teams know the injuries that the Braves are dealing with, and they know how badly they need to make these moves. So yeah, they're going to hold out and say, give us this prospect or we're just going to hang on to this guy. And I would imagine, and I'm just assuming and guessing, that's probably what Anthopoulos is facing at this moment, that teams are just kind of hanging that over them, that they know he needs to make these moves. And so they're just going to wait him out and make him give up his best prospects. And Alex just isn't going to do that. He's not going to overpay, but I do believe he will make some things happen. It might not be the major moves. It might not be the Garrett Crochets or the Luis Robert, but he's going to make some things happen. I fully believe that. And in my mind, it doesn't have to be those major moves. Look, you're trying to replace an Eddie Rosario who has a OPS under 600. You're trying to replace an Adam Duvall who's hitting under 200. You're trying to replace a Ramon Laureano who was dropped. You're trying to replace a Whit Merrifield who was dropped. I mean, the upgrades that you're trying to make here, I mean, you're not trying to really do too much here. You're just looking for some minimal upgrades to give this team a chance, to give the bottom of the order a chance. That's really all that you're looking for at the deadline. So, and this is something I talked about as well. All your best trade prospects that you would use in a deal, you're having to use at the big league level. I mean, Spencer Schwellenbach, I'm glad I think they're going to hang on to him, but he'd be one of your best trade chips right now. Nacho Alvarez, they were showcasing him at third base before they had to bring him up. He's one of your best trade chips, but you're having to use him right now. It's just a position that they are in with all the injuries. They're having to use a lot of these trade pieces to get by at the moment. So again, something will happen. I know that he'll make some types of moves. I just would not get your hopes up that it's going to be something fantastic. And I don't think it has to be. Again, at the end of the day, if Olsen doesn't hit, if Riley doesn't hit, if Harris can't come back and be himself, if Murphy and d'Arnaud, they can't figure out which one they want to put in the lineup and just leave there and let them do their thing, nothing else really matters. So again, still some time to go. Moves will be made, and we'll talk about it all on Tuesday as it goes down. But to this point, nothing's happened. And I can only imagine that teams are really just holding Alex Anthopoulos hostage and saying, we know you need to make these moves. You're desperate. I'm holding out until you are willing to give up your best prospects. And if that's the case, it's going to go down to the wire because Alex isn't going to budge on that. All right, next we'll get you set up for the trade deadline. A little bit more happening on Tuesday. We'll also get you ready for game 2 of the series between the Brewers, where Bryce Elder is on the mound again. Hopefully things go much better this time around. We'll discuss it here next. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. And unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch those winnings roll in. And it's really this simple. All you got to do, download the PrizePicks app, create an account, use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB. You're going to get a first deposit match up to $100. You're going to click on that MLB tab. You're going to see Bryce Elder there on Tuesday. They're going to have a number of strikeouts for him. You're going to take less. I'm just telling you, that's what you're going to do on Tuesday. Although with the way strikeouts were happening in game 1 of that series, maybe you should click more because Grant Holmes struck out 8 in 5 innings, and I would have definitely taken less on that one. But that's all you really got to do. They'll have first inning runs, player fantasy scores, combination of hit runs, RBIs, all kinds of stat projections out there. You just pick more or less for 2 to 6 players. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. And it's also PrizePicks is available in Georgia and Alabama. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks for a deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Do have some news. Want to get into the Ronaldo Lopez news. I did just mention it briefly earlier. MRI came back clean. He's considered day-to-day at the moment, hoping to avoid going on the injured list. Snickers said he won't be down for an extended period, or at least they're hoping he won't be down for an extended period. Of course, we've heard that this year for a couple of players, Austin Riley and Ramon Laureano in particular. But they'll see how he progresses over the next few days. If all goes well. I'm losing my voice here at the end of this one. If all goes well, he'll start tossing the baseball later this week, but no plans to shut him down for a while. So that's good news. I think best case scenario, you see him this weekend, hopefully getting Max Fried back as well here very soon. So it's been a tough turn through the rotation here. But again, hopefully you're getting those two guys back within the next week or so. Darius Vines was recalled for Jimmy Herget. He pitched the 9th inning on Monday. I would be surprised if maybe he gets optioned after this game as well. I guess that was probably going to be the move to call up Bryce Elder, who's going to start on Tuesday. Hurston Waldrop was optioned back to AAA after finishing his rehab assignment, just kind of a formality as he was on the Major League IL, so they had to reinstate him from the injured list and then option him to AAA, where he continues to build back up. Maybe we'll see him at some point this year. Maybe we see him in the bullpen at the end of the year. Talked about it, A.J. Smith-Shawver, Hurston Waldrop. Those could be 2 guys at the end of the season. If they're not in the rotation, those could be your bullpen upgrades, and it takes out a need for something else to get at the trade deadline. But it is going to be Bryce Elder on Tuesday. Not sure who's pitching for the Brewers just yet, but Bryce Elder hasn't been great here lately. The Braves obviously in a tough spot right now with the pitching staff and the way that it is with the injuries, but you're hoping Bryce Elder can give you 5-6 innings. Like if he can give you what Grant Holmes gave you, that would be fantastic. But I would take 5 innings, 3 earned or less at this point from Bryce Elder, who can be good at times and can be really bad at times. And we really need the good Bryce Elder in this one. But I'm losing a little bit of faith in him, even as a 4th and 5th starter, which is all I've ever thought that Bryce Elder would be. Set some high expectations making the All-Star game last year that I think Braves fans are holding him to that expectation. He is not that, but need him to give the team some innings and, like I said, keep them in the game. And don't know who's going for the Brewers. Unfortunately, because it was a blowout, they didn't have to use a lot of their top arms in this game. We didn't see McGill. We didn't see Devin Williams. So, unfortunately, with the game getting away, the Brewers should have some fresh arms ready to go, but we don't know who's pitching for them yet. I doubt Frankie Montas is going to be there in time to start, but they did just trade for him, and I think he was scheduled to pitch for the Reds tomorrow. So could be a possibility they get him there and he starts on Tuesday. But either way, want to see the bats get going. William Mann saying McGill is hurt. That is unfortunate because I have him on my fantasy team, and I did not see that. But, either way, Devin Williams did just come off the injured list for them and is a, big piece of their bullpen and will be. That will do it for this episode of Locked On Braves. Again, if a big trade happens, probably not late tonight, but early morning tomorrow, then we'll talk about it. And then I hope to be going live at the trade deadline as things come to an end on Tuesday. Hopefully we see some things happening in here, have some moves happening, some trades going down for the Atlanta Braves to help get them going. But I do appreciate you joining. Also, always say, keep it friendly in the comment section. Don't care what's going on, but please keep it friendly. Love that here about our Locked On Braves community. So please make sure that you do that if you're joining in the comment section, whether live or down below. This is baseball. At the end of the day, everybody's entitled to their own opinions, even if your opinion is wrong. I'm just kidding. But thank you so much for all your support here at Locked On Braves. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. If you are new, hit that thumbs up button as well. I do appreciate everybody joining, and thanks to all my everydayers out there. Follow us on social media at shortstopball, at LockedOn_Braves. Make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and we will talk to you next time.